If you are ever driving through Michigan and you see a sign for the Greenbrier Motel on Route 106, do not stop. Do not slow down. Do not even look at it. I worked the night shift there for 1 week. In that 1 week, I found a pile of shed human skin on the floor of a vacant room. I watched something that looked like a woman kill a man in the parking lot in the rain and then bend its own knees backwards and stretch its neck out 2 feet long. And then I watched 2 police officers look me in the eye and tell me I did not see anything. I have not slept properly since, and I need you to know what is in that building before someone else goes in and does not come back out. I started working at the Greenbrier Motel a week ago. It was not a dream job by any standard. Night shift at the front desk, checking people in and out, doing some inventory in the back. I liked the peace and quiet, though. A little rundown motel on a stretch of isolated highway in Michigan gave me a lot of time to read and play games on the clock. It also helped that the owner, Frank, did not seem to care that I was a high school dropout with a rap sheet. But on the very first day, I felt that something was terribly off. There was a smell. When the wind shifted, the entire parking lot smelled like rotting meat. I ran to close the windows, but even then I could still smell it seeping in through the vents. The motel's surrounded by deep woods, so I figured maybe we were near the kill grounds of some animal. The other thing that struck me as odd were some of the guest rooms. Some of them did not have windows, and it seemed like that was intentional. I could see the lines in the paint, the seams outlining where windows had once been. When I asked Frank, he told me that some guests specifically requested windowless rooms and that they were in high demand. He did not elaborate, and I was too scared to press him on it. Things went from strange to downright creepy as soon as Frank left for the evening. A woman walked into the lobby. She was in her 40s maybe, with black hair and very pale skin. As soon as she stepped inside, she locked the door behind her and asked if Frank had gone. I said yes and asked who she was. Her name was Matilda. She had been cleaning the motel rooms after guests checked out for a decade. After a few minutes of small talk, she came up to the counter and lowered her voice. She told me she wanted to make sure I was safe around here and that I needed to listen to her. My heart dropped. She told me whatever I did, I should not ask questions. Just check people in, check them out, and mind my own business. I immediately assumed this was that kind of motel. Illegal business being conducted under a dilapidated roof. I asked if the police came, would I be arrested? She gave me a blank stare and said not to worry about the police. Just do not ask questions and do not make eye contact or look at their faces for too long. I thought she meant she did not want witnesses who could pick anyone out of a lineup. I told her I understood. She smiled and said I had nothing to worry about. As it turned out, I had quite a lot to worry about. That night, I checked in 3 people. A big, strong guy in sunglasses who looked like he had stepped out of a gangster movie. A woman wearing more makeup than a clown, foundation so thick it cracked at the corners of her eyes and lips, false eyelashes so long they looked like spider legs, and a skinny young guy in a hoodie that smelled of something chemical and strange. I did not ask questions. I did not look at them. I kept my eyes on the screen the entire time. When it hit midnight, I assumed the rest of the night would be smooth sailing. I pulled up a game on the computer and put on some music. At 2 a.m, the door swung open. It was the man in sunglasses. I kept my eyes on the screen as he approached the counter. He asked if we had any razors for purchase. I said no. He asked me to check in the back. I did not want to turn my back on him, but refusing seemed worse. I went to the storage room, and that is when I noticed it. The sunglasses were sitting slightly too low on his face, like the eyes beneath them were not in quite the right place. And I could not see any eyebrow poking above the frames or any contour of a brow ridge. Everything above the glasses was perfectly flat and smooth, like he had no eye sockets at all. I found some razors in the storage room and handed them over without looking up. He thanked me and left. I ran to the door and locked it the second it closed. As I sat back down, I realized something I had missed before. All 3 guests I had checked in that evening had something covering their face or head. The sunglasses sitting in the wrong place. The makeup so thick it looked like a mask. The hoodie pulled so tight that no ears or hair were visible at all. It was like they all had something to hide underneath. The next night was quiet. No one checked in during my shift. I locked the door, made coffee, and got some reading done. Around midnight, I heard a loud slam from outside. I ran to the window and saw the door to room 16 was wide open. The parking lot was empty. No one was outside. When I checked the computer, the room had not been booked for that night. Nobody should have been in there. I pulled up the security camera feed and rewound it. The door had opened and a woman had walked out. I could not see her face, just long dark hair hanging over it. She walked directly into room 22. Room 22 was booked to a woman named Cassandra Johnson. I figured Cassandra had wandered into the vacant room and maybe taken something. Matilda had probably forgotten to lock it. After cleaning, I told myself I would just go close and lock the door and come straight back. I walked across the parking lot, and as I got close to room 16, a horrible smell came out of the open doorway, something rotting and decaying. My stomach turned. I reached in and flicked the light on. The room looked normal, bed made, carpet clean, but the smell had only gotten worse. Then I saw something on the carpet on the other side of the bed, something tan and folded over itself. I stepped into the room, got closer, peered around the side of the bed, and froze. There was a pile of beige, slightly translucent material folded over itself on the floor, and attached to it were shapes I recognized immediately. 5 fingers resembling a glove made of skin. Poking out from under one of the folds, it looked like someone had shed their entire skin. There was no blood on it. It had not been cut off anyone. It held the shape of its wearer perfectly, like a snakeskin, clean and intact. I backed out of the room with my legs shaking under me, and walking toward me down the sidewalk was a woman with long dark hair hanging over her face. I could tell through the hair that her eyes and lips were in slightly the wrong position. She was moving fast. I turned and ran, and did not stop until I was inside the lobby with the door locked. Then the whistling started, just outside the door. The sound shifted as she circled the building looking for a way in. I heard it at the front door, then the back, then the side windows, then the front again. This went on for a full hour before it finally faded. I stayed huddled in the back storage room until dawn. I wanted to quit more than I had ever wanted anything. But I needed the money. Eviction was the only alternative. So I went back. I pulled Matilda aside and told her everything I had seen. She told me again that as long as I minded my own business, I would be safe. So that is what I did for the next few days. Kept my head down, avoided eye contact. Things were quiet. Then came the night of November 14th. It was raining in sheets, thunder shaking the windows every few minutes. I was not expecting anyone. Then a man knocked on the window. He was wearing a hoodie pulled over his head, his face mostly in shadow, banging on the glass like he was in a hurry. I gripped the mace I kept under the counter and slipped it into my pocket before unlocking the door. He stepped inside and rain dripped off his jacket onto the floor. I walked back around the counter and sat down without looking at him. He leaned over the counter until his face was about a foot from mine. I could smell the stale mothball odor coming off his clothes. He told me to go faster. I said the computer was old. He growled that he did not have all day. I asked for his name without looking up. He said Daniel Jones. It sounded fake, but I did not care. I booked the room, took a key off the hook, and told him room 7. He thanked me and waited by the door. A minute passed, then 2. He was not leaving. He asked me to escort him to his room. Everything in me said no. I ran through every possible scenario. But refusing a man who was clearly agitated and clearly not entirely right seemed like the worst option. I gripped the mace in my pocket and stepped outside into the rain with him. I followed at a distance as he went to his car and pulled out a duffel bag. We walked toward room 7. He started making small talk about the weather while fiddling with the key in the lock. I looked down at his hands and realized he was not actually trying to open the door. He was inserting the key, pausing, and pulling it back out. Over and over. He was stalling. I looked up just as he turned to stare directly at me. His eyes were intense and studying, and I wanted to run, but he had 6 inches on me. I said I was going back to the front desk. His lips stretched into a grimace, showing yellowed gray teeth. He told me to stay exactly where I was. I pulled the mace from my pocket and pointed it at him. And then I heard it, whistling, behind me in the rain, the same tune from a few nights ago. The man said he was sorry, but that he had needed bait. I stared at him, unable to process what he had just said. The whistling grew louder. I turned around. Through the rain and the flickering street lamp, I could see someone walking through the parking lot toward us. The mace fell from my hand and hit the ground. I turned and ran for the lobby as fast as I have ever run in my life. The whistling stopped, and loud splashing footsteps started behind me, getting closer with every second. I hit the door, slammed it shut, and turned the lock. Then I pulled the blinds down and parted them with my fingers just enough to look out. There was a woman standing in the parking lot, the same woman from before. Her hair and clothes were drenched with rain. She was smiling, a big lopsided grin that sat wrong on her face. Her eyes were wide and wild, incredibly light blue, and in the darkness it almost looked like she had no irises at all. just 2 pinholes for pupils aimed directly at my door. She took a step forward. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. As the operator picked up, I heard a loud thump outside. I ran back to the window. The man who had booked room 7 was running toward the woman holding a short silver dagger up in the rain. I screamed into the phone that he was attacking her. Then her face changed. Her grin crept up past her cheeks toward her eyes. Her arms crackled and stretched. She blinked and her eyes turned completely white. Her body twisted at the waist in a direction it should not have been able to twist. She leapt at him with fast, jolted movements. Within seconds, he was dead on the ground. She stood over him on all fours with her knees bent the wrong way and her fingers far too long. Then with a horrible crackling sound, her neck stretched out 2 feet long, twisting in serpentine. And then she looked directly at me. I leapt away from the window. The 911 operator was asking me what was happening. I could not speak. When I made it back to the window, she was standing normally over the body. She stepped over it, walked to room 22, pulled out a key, and went inside. When the police arrived a few minutes later, I begged them to check room 22. They knocked on the door, and a completely normal-looking woman opened it and had what appeared to be a friendly conversation with them. They came back and asked to see the security tapes. When they watched the footage, one of them made a call, saying something about an infestation. Then they ushered me into the lobby with grim faces and told me I had not seen anything that night. One of them leaned in close and said, "It very slowly. You did not see anything, just like you never shoplifted in your life." I understood the threat. I said I had not seen anything. I left the motel that night and never went back. I plan to keep my mouth shut exactly like they told me to. But I have not slept properly since, and I cannot have another person walking into that building without knowing what is inside it. So if you are driving through Michigan and you see the vacancy sign glowing at the Greenbrier Motel on Route 106, I am begging you, keep driving.